One.
We will first of all call the JD1 Ditch Authority to order, and we will take care of that business. Then we'll do the pledge, and we'll do the county board from there. The JD1 Ditch Authority is now in session. Commissioner Berg, Commissioner Imdeck, and myself to approve the minutes from the previous meeting having to do with accepting as far as the tree bids. Commissioner Larson from Meeker County is on, and Commissioner Kramer was not at the meeting, but he's also a member. The reason, gentlemen, that I'm bringing this forward is that if we don't do it now, we're going to forget, and sometimes it's months and months and months and months, and we forget. There are some minutes that have never been signed, honestly. So the chair will entertain a motion to
Move on
approve
the
the
minutes,
minutes.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Imdeck moves. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Berg seconds. Any questions, discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is hereby carried. I will hereby adjourn the JD1 Ditch Authority, and I will call the Candy Ohio County Board of Commissioners to order. If we would stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair will entertain a motion on the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll second.
Mr. Almond moves and Mr. Nissen seconds. Discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion hereby carried. Chair will entertain a motion on approval of the bills for Candy Ohio County. Commissioner Nissen moves. I will second the motion. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion hereby carried. The CARES funds, questions or comments?
I'll move on approval, Mr. Chair.
Almond moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. Discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is hereby carried. I will now move to Colleen Thompson with some resolutions from the Glacial Lakes sanitary sewer. So Colleen, please, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the council, or the board. Today I'll be presenting the Glacial Lake Sanitary Sewer and Water District 2021 budget. Your packet should have included an executive summary, 2021 budget summary, and then it should also included the resolution 2020-47 along with Exhibit A. So, like I said, you should have this budget summary that came in your packet. It's the blue titled piece of paper. But overall, the Glacial Lakes budget concept was if you remember, back in 2017, Ellers, our bond consultant, conducted a rate study. And in that rate study, it proposed a 5.25% increase in our operating budget and a 5% increase in our capital budget for the next 10 years. So that is being applied to the 2021 budget, and doing so increase the 2021 budget by 2.5% from the 2020 budget. So the rate study also recommending setting a fund balance policy. That means a 6-month operating fund and a 1-year debt service in the budget. At this point in time, the budget is, we are near those goals, so the health of the budget is doing good. And so if you look back again, 2018, was when the rate study first took place, and the rate structure and the new fees. And then last year, or in 2019, we did a look back to see if any adjustments needed to be made with our budget. And then now we're into that third year, and we're trying to get the budget right, and it's going along pretty good. So our goals for 2021 is to complete a few unfinished projects that we have. We have one big project, our 4 lift station, 3 force main, and SCADA project. We should be finishing that up next year. We should be also closing out our Phase 1 wastewater improvements. And then coming up at the water plant, which we hope to get that rolling earlier this, not earlier this year, but finishing it up next year, but starting it here shortly, maybe in late this winter. So basically, 2021 is going to be a reset year for us. It's going to be a lay low year, hopefully. Like I said, trying to finish up some unfinished business with projects that we have going on. So with the budget, we did meet with our budget committee, which we have an internal budget committee that meets. We discussed the budget. They made a motion to forward on to the Glacier Lake Commission for them to look at and then to approve. They looked at it. They looked at it on at our September 28th meeting, and they made a motion then to forward on to you, which brings me to today. So today I'll be asking for adoption of the 2021 budget along with the Exhibit A. But if you look at this budget summary, then you can see that I have it broken down into, on the very top there, you'll see that our capital fund, which I have labeled in parentheses, Fund 29, those two revenue streams go toward the debt on the plant and also any capital improvements that we have going on. Then if you look down to the operating funds in parentheses in the 28, then those fees are going for our operating budget, our annual operating budget. So for a total budget of $4,680,557. So you can see most of our budget, the revenue that comes in is coming in to pay off the debt and the debt and the capital expenses. Now, if you look at resolution, so I guess my action for today then would be to approve and adopt Resolution 2020-47 along with Exhibit A. Exhibit A shows all the fees that we charge. So if you look at the resolution, the fourth resolution, or the fourth whereas actually shows the revenue stream that will be used for the sewer and water meter fees at that $1,632,662 and the $1,474,529 amount. These are the fees that are called our base meter fees, our fixed fees. So those are the funds, or the dollars that are used then to pay off the debt and capital improvements of the plant. Now, if you go down to the sixth whereas there, it talks about the water budget being projected at $414,404, and then the sewer utility, then the revenue stream coming in should be $1,154,962. Now, these fees come in through the usage fees, so that's how we receive our money, through those two fees. So our total budget is set at $4,680,557.
Mr. Chair,
The question, Mr. Amdeck.
I would move on Resolution 2020-47 with Exhibit.
Commissioner Amdeck moves 2020-47. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Nissen. Questions or discussion for Colleen or on the motion?
I think a very complete presentation. Thank you very much.
All in favor of said motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion likewise carried. When you think it was 22 years that Green Lake, now Glacier Lakes has been in operation, correct?
About, yeah.
20 years.
20 years.
And I guess I want to commend Colleen and Mel and Larry and others that worked on the facilities plan, the upgrades and the updates, and putting all that together. And then looking at the work that Eiler's put in provides a long-term planning, a long-term sustainable plan as far as proceeding of it. It doesn't seem possible. I think the first meeting we had, Mel, was 98. I believe it was 98, and that was at the school in New London. And it doesn't seem possible.
Mr.
It's
Chair,
22 years, Mr. Imdeck.
one of the things that is often raises eyebrows is the cost per unit in the Glacier Lakes Trail for sewage. If you saw one of the numbers, there was 57 square miles in this district, and that serves about 1,550 or 60 residents, I believe, something like that. Now, if you compare that to the city of Blaine, which is 36 square miles, that has something like 5,500 residents. So the cost per unit is huge out here compared to in more densely populated. Plus, but we have all the lakes, and if we want to protect the lakes, it's a price that we have to pay.
Still one of the best things that was ever done.
Yep.
Without a question. Thank you, Colleen. And they are signed.
And
Thank you
Good
much.
luck on your laid-back year. Mr. Tipping.
Mr. Odens, please.
Chair, members of the board, I'm going to show I've got a picture of what we're going to accomplish with the action that you're going to take today, or I request you take today. So the action that I'm going to be looking for from this board is to authorize me to sign a work order to continue the work on the Highway 23, County Road 5 interchange. So that's going to be the action. But to get there, I do want to just explain a little bit about what this work order is going to entail. So what the work order is going to entail is I handed this sheet out to you last board meeting. And in your packet, there's the red kind of clouded area that we have here is we're moving into phase 2 now. And what does phase 2 consist of? Phase 2 consists of MNDOT doing the ramps in their fiscal year 23. So that's good news for us because they're funded. But what's our involvement? They want to use the process of our master agreement with the state of a work order because we can direct select consultants, and the consultants that have been working on this, in this case WSB, have done all the work in this area. And so all these projects are tied together, and the larger master plan was put together by WSB. So our recommendation is to go into phase 2 and let WSB design the ramps, because they're basically cursory designed, if you will, to make sure this all works. So yesterday we opened up the curve here at noon. Our what was it, $2.8 million project right here that did this curve, and it did this temporary connection down to Old 55 and 23. Actually, you can see it probably better here. So this is all opened up at noon yesterday, just ahead of the snow. And so the next phase is going to be design the ramps. And so it's going to be a typical diamond interchange is what we call it in our world. And so it would be that, one of our things was driver expectation would be the same as what you would do when you come to enter interchange. And that was our whole idea. I have been asked, why did we do all this work to do this? And it seems a bit confusing yet. You come off at 23 and you go up this ramp, you stop here. But I think what my response that I would like you to have is we have to do this to do this, because once this is cut off right here, this road has to be in place. So we couldn't do them together is my point. So the way we're phasing this is that this road right here should never need to be closed again for construction. Because right now we've been having not a lot, but there's been an element of confusion and frustration and detours and going out of your way. Well, that should be done now in this area. There'll be construction going on, but we shouldn't have to close the roads anymore. Okay? And is there any questions on any of this before I go into the work?
So now looking forward to the bridge portion of it, where that would tie into the curve we just opened up.
Yep.
There'll be construction on 5 as we open that up there, or were you able to do
We extended it far enough
there?
west with the same section. Now, granted, I mean, you might have a lane closure or whatever, but you should always be able to get down 5 to the interchange and function. You can go into the industrial park. You can, when the bridge is built.
As long as those sidewalk inspectors don't sit in the car and watch you do your work.
Right, ironically, there's a few of those too. So now, okay, so that's like the phasing of it. So what are we asking for today? What we're asking for today is there's a work order process that we work with the state of Minnesota on. And in this case, the work order is for $189,000, and it does all the design through final design and environmental. And that gets you a set of plans that MNDOT would take that set of plans and take it to letting and take it from there. So our involvement is nothing more than a conduit to get this thing done on time, on track.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I will
Mr.
move.
Nissen moves to accept the recommendation to proceed with WSB in the work order. Is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second it.
that.
Seconded, we have a tie vote, Commissioner Berg.
Okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion hereby carried.
That's it. So
Thank you.
Any
Thank
questions
you, Mr. Odens.
on the project? I mean, it opened, it seems to be functioning. We should have access to the industrial park now and we're
So
ready
that's
to go.
Well, go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chairman Matson. Oh, these masks. Especially with.
You got it hooked on your hearing.
There we go. All righty. Oh, just a quick question. So the detours are going to start changing then?
Right, and
And less traffic on 15th Street Southwest?
correct, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, and in fact, we didn't do a press release to say that we opened it, but I think the Wilmer Y still has its growing pains down there, especially they were trying to pave yesterday and today, and I'm not sure that that's going to happen. But I know that they're trying to switch up traffic, trying to get it on New 12, but just stay tuned because it's going to be a little traffic adjustment. But our goal was to get ours done so that you can get to the airport and some of those without going down all these gravel roads, especially in the wintertime.
Great.
So,
Well, thank you, Mel. I appreciate the feedback as far as the confusion, because all of us have had calls on that and had the similar answers to that we have to do this as a phase-in because of the complicated nature and all of the other aspects with the Y. If it'd be just this, it would be simpler, but in conjunction with the Y, it changes the whole dynamics.
right, and it looks like redundant work, but it really
I know
isn't.
it.
That grading is
I
going to
know
be
it.
needed for the bridge, so.
Thank you. Thank you with that. I will now call on Connie Mishmal to do the broadband, and you have your graphic up there already. We can read it through. Welcome, Connie.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners. Chair Madsen. I'm Connie Schmall with the Economic Development Commission. I'll take my mask off here. Thanks to Raleigh, we have this little display that says it took astronauts 3 hours to get from Earth to space station, but it takes rural America 3 hours to download a video, and that is true for some people. Here in Candioi County, we continue our efforts to secure real broadband that can download our videos faster and get our homework uploaded and get our work meetings completed at home. We recently did do a broadband survey. We did that after COVID started to see what people were really experiencing at home. And for background, I'm going to talk about the speed test, but first I'm going to talk about the survey just briefly. In that survey, we found out that 83% of our respondents, and there are 351 respondents in Candioi County, either had one or two people working from home, 48% had students participate in distant learning, and 65% of them said the internet has not met their needs. 97 out of the 351 respondents said they had to use a public site or a hotspot to download, upload workload or download their work assignments. That's not acceptable. They need to be able to do it at home, especially when you look at the snow outside this morning. This is winter in Minnesota. Do we want to be running to our town halls just to download some information? When asked about the benefits of broadband, this is important. People need it to work from home, to connect with family members, to do schoolwork, for college assignments when they're told they can't go to classes on site. They need it for staying connected with friends. In this day and age, they need it for entertainment when there's not a lot else to do, especially now that we're not going to be walking our trails and bike riding as much. And keeping up to date on COVID-19. When asked about the issues that they face, they said they had dropped connections, they're unable to finish a meeting, it was unreliable, it's not helpful, they need to reset their internet several times a day, unable to perform their job duties due to slow and dropped internet. Some chose to go to the workplace just to free up the bandwidth for their kids doing distance learning at home. One said, if it works, I get by. What does that mean if it doesn't work? We many times go sit outside the Lake Lillian Library to access the internet. It's extremely slow. It reminds me of dial-up days. One person said, I'm so hoping we can get real broadband soon. The other one said, I have no issues now that I have fiber to our home, and that's what we need. When I'm talking to providers now about doing a project here in Canada County, they said, we want to see the data. We want to see the actual spot speed test. So that leads me right into the speed test that I want to show you how to do today, because I want every resident in Canada County, every business in Canada County, if you all do this speed test, it will give us the data that we need today to get moving on broadband. Inadequate broadband mapping has made expanding broadband infrastructure more difficult than it should be. Most broadband maps are not detailed more than census blocks, a township or county level, and we need to have home by home detailing. House by house data is another way to say it. About broadband speeds give better picture of what service looks like. This is currently what some of the maps look like. If you have a block of people, one person has good internet, they say they all have good internet. What about that person who doesn't, who can't download the homework assignments and upload their work? When you take the speed test, we get data more like this, little dots for every single residence and business in the state. The speed test initiative started out as a pilot project in St. Louis County. It expanded into Itasca and Cochiching counties. 7,000 speed tests were taken during the pilot project, and now the Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition has partnered with the Association of Minnesota Counties and GEO Partners, LLC. And we have a statewide speed test initiative, which was launched on August 3rd. Currently, over 24,000 speed tests have been taken, and that's increasing every day. Since we started marketing here in Canada County, the numbers have gone 10 times what they were a month ago. So thank you for all those who have participated. The goals are to create more accurate mapping in the nation and give community leaders, including our county and our broadband community and our providers, the tools they need to expand our broadband networks. A goal is to prepare maps and data to present to the legislators so they can see the need to fund broadband projects. And here's where the speed test can be located, www.minnesotaruralbroadbandcoalition.com/speed test. I'm going to say that quite a few times because it's a mouthful, but if you break it apart, it's not too bad. www, most of us don't even put that in. MN for Minnesota, Rural Broadband Coalition.com/speed test. I'm going to choose control and, oops, the wrong one. You go. Okay, this is what it looks like when you get into it. Welcome to the Minnesota Broadband Speed Test Initiative. Down below, you're going to click on your choice, enter your exact address, enter your partial address, or enter an address that has no available speed just to report. I can't even do the test because I don't have any broadband at all. But we're going to choose enter partial address. And the address here is 22, whoops, we got to do my email. Put your email in. And then let's do it is what it says. You put your street number. It has to be where you're doing the test from. Your city. Make sure you get the right state. I've got Maine in there, but we want Minnesota. Your monthly internet cost, and just the no digits, no decimals are needed. And now it's going to go ahead and check this address. Internet speed. It's working on our behalf. The ping in the end is how long it takes information to get there. That's not something they're tracking at this time, but for providers, that's important. Jitter is variances that are happening. But the download speed I'm getting right now is a 5.83 megabytes download. An upload of 8.85. Great upload, terrible download.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
The
No wonder
20
it's so slow, Larry, yesterday.
Yeah.
That's what I had yesterday.
Goodness.
The year 2022 statewide goal is 25 download and 3 upload. So again, this is a good upload. When you're done with the test, you can view the state map of results right there on the same page. You'll just want to keep clicking in until you find our county. And you can see these little dots. Each one of those is actually a group of tests. So on the side where it says how many tests were taken for each provider over here, if you click in too far, this is what happens. It goes back to the state of Minnesota. So don't overclick. But each of those dots is either a test or a group of tests. On the side, it'll tell you how many tests were taken, such as CloudNet, 4 tests were taken, CenturyLink, 48 tests were taken. What's important on this list for providers is they want to know which companies are where and what kind of speeds they provide. If you take the test 10 times, this map will show you the average of those 10 times. It'll only show you 1 time. It won't show you 10 times. You can't overdo it. It'll show the average. The providers want to know not only what you have, but on this list over here, it'll show what those providers can provide, because not everybody is subscribing to the total speed that they can get. So there's a lot of information for providers on there. There's a lot of information for the broadband committee that's part of the EDC, so we can assess and report to people, especially funders at the state level, why we need better broadband and why we need our projects funded. Do we have any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Roger, please.
what do the dots, the colors of the dots mean?
Okay, so red is a symbol for stop, right? It means you don't have anything. You're stopped right where you are and you don't have adequate speed. You don't meet the minimum goal of 25/3. You don't even meet the 10/1 probably. Yellow is underserved. You do meet the 10/1, but you're not yet 25/3. The green dots mean you're at least 25/3.
Mr. Chair, I would point out that in 2022, the definition is 25/3, but in 2026, about the time the Wilmer Y project is done, it'll be 100/25 as the definition for being served. So it's going to get even worse between now and 2026 if we don't continue to improve services.
Well, the Broadband Committee of the EDC in Candioi County has always wanted fiber. We're really working on fiber access, because why put in something that's going to get you 28/5 when in the year 2026 the goal is 100/20 or 25. So fiber can do that. It can do it today. Let's build once, not twice or 3 times.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr.
Thank you, Connie, for your report. I did take that test, and this was at about 11 o'clock in the evening. My download was 42.6. The upload is 9.27. The ping was 61.31, and the jitter was 8.67 ms. So varying times, I know with the load and the usage has an impact on that. So I wasn't I seem to be content with the performance that I was getting, the speed that I was having at this time. So what is the lowest that, the lowest service delivery numbers? Have you seen what area, at what time during the day is it better or worse? Is this average that you're going to be taking? You said you can take the test 10 times and that'll give you your average. Should it be taken at different altering times during the day?
Taking at different times does help get you the average, helps the people who are collecting this data get the best average for your spot.
All right.
You must live in Wilmer and have charter.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Yes, I
so
do.
charter constantly gives you that 40 or more, even up to 200, 250 download speeds. Charter has a lot of fiber in it, maybe fiber to the home in some areas, so you got some good speeds. After school in the evening is the worst time to do your test, although it's okay to give them the low speeds that you get after school when all the kids are on broadband. It won't affect fiber lines, it will affect DSL and other lines.
Raleigh?
I was just going to comment on the same thing, that Wilmer has good speed, not necessarily all the time. I had some that were down to 5 and 6, I suppose, because my whole neighborhood was on their iPads or whatever. But the key to remember, and I think you probably are going to maybe, the folks that live in my district and part of Rogers' district and for sure in Harlan's district, those are the ones that should be doing this and doing it a lot, because without their cooperation, we won't get the data we need to show to the state and grant writers that we really need this. And I know I would speak to my folks in my district, please jump on this. I'm going to send this out in a Facebook post and maybe some letters too, because it's critical that we get the data we need so that we can apply for grants and be successful.
Exactly, Raleigh, thank you for that. And that's how I'm going to wrap up. It is critical. Broadband access is important now more than ever. People are saying, I didn't know what I didn't have until COVID hit. The Minnesota Speed Test initiatives help you build better broadband service maps. Take the speed test today, www.mnruralbroadbandcoalition.com/speedtest. Most students in Minnesota will be distance learning in some form or shape this fall or this winter. If you do not have real broadband internet in your homes, it's going to be a problem. The speed test is working to get more accurate mapping to see where the gaps in coverage exist. Take the speed test. It only takes 30 seconds. mnruralbroadbandcoalition.com/speedtest. We've been relying on incomplete data. This is going to help get granular data and get real maps. Take the speed test, mnruralbroadbandcoalition.com/speedtest. And the Speed Test Initiative wants to find out exactly where broadband service is available in Minnesota and what speeds people are receiving. You all can help. Take the speed test. It only takes 30 seconds. www.mnruralbroadbandcoalition.com/speedtest. Any other questions?
Just to talk a little bit more about the speed test, and the minimum of 25 is not much. And as Commissioner Amman was talking about, you're getting 40 from charter, and you know, it all depends upon when you take a speed test, how many other things are going on in a house. You know, some people may have this one computer and they get a really good test number. A lot of houses nowadays, your TVs are hooked up, your phone goes to Wi-Fi to do long distance calling with all your other stuff. You know, you got all your iPads, you got your Lexus and your Google stuff. There's so much electronics now using this that we do a speed test, and it could vary, depends on what's hooked up. So it's really important that we get it up there, like you're saying, 100 should be a minimum.
And that is so true. The average household has 7 to 10 devices going at any one time that are using the internet. Do your test with those things going, because that's reality. That's what you need. That's the way we're going to operate our homes.
I
So.
probably got twice that, and it's tough sometimes. Yeah. Thank you.
Roger, please.
Just a couple of things. I didn't see it as an option for you as you did the test, but when you take that test on your own, one of the options is to use your GPS location, so you don't even have to type in your address if you don't want to. And there are some instructions on what you might want to shut down so that everybody is taking it in the same fashion. They actually say, shut down as much as you can, shut down other, like if somebody's streaming at the time. And then to answer Mr. Commissioner Almond's question, there are places that are at one, sometimes less than one on a pretty consistent basis for their download speeds. So it's worse than what it really feels like. I took a screenshot of Kennewick County last week, and now I'd like to take a screenshot on about November 5th to see if what we're about to do has been effective. And one other thing, you just need to type in min speed test. Min speed test.
Min speed test, we'll take you there.
That easy.
All right.
Mr. Chairman? I have a-
Mr. Almond,
Oh,
go ahead. No, go ahead, Steve.
All right, thank you. Connie, I appreciate all your work, and this has been an ongoing work, I think, for how many, 8 years or more. And it's something we have to keep on track of. And when I look at this, I'm sure there's resources that the taxpayers of the county would appreciate being put into broadband. And we're doing that through the EDC and through any other grants that we can get. We have the opportunity, or maybe we might not have the opportunity, with the CARES funds that we've received, preparedness ready for communicating with their people. Is there any way, or have you given any thought, or has staff given any thought to using any of those funds for development of the data to support our need for broadband? And has that been shown in our CARES funding reports? Could you explain that, please?
I can respond to that, but it'll come from Gene and Larry.
Okay.
Two things. We want to market the speed test better. Some money to do that
think
is
I would
fitting
agree.
with CARES Act funds. Second, we can update our feasibility study so we can get provider information to move forward on a project as soon as
think-
possible.
Well spent. Thank you.
Gorky?
I was just thinking, to me, it should be real life speed test. What your house is really like. You're talking about, they want a speed test based on something, not certain things not turned on or whatever, but I think the speed test should be, see, this is how I have to live every day at this speed. So I encourage that. But
And they're taking all
it might
that,
make the test lower.
they're taking quite a bit of data into account, including what the provider can provide, because you might not subscribe to all of it. So
Sure.
that will be,
Raleigh?
Just emphasize again the importance to the educational system, especially those in the rural areas. Wilmer just went to hybrid learning this week because of COVID tests and so forth. So I drive school bus in the morning, and I'm now picking up AA students Monday and Tuesday and double B students Thursday and Friday. Wednesday is totally internet, and it's so critical that 3/5 of the time, the average student is at home trying to connect to his class. And in the rural areas, Wilmer's probably doing okay, but I think the school district last year went around with a hotspot mobile just to try to provide that and fill that need, and it's just impossible to do.
the school districts are doing tests not only of speeds, but who has the money to pay for a computer and to pay for subscription to internet services, which is critical for our students.
And I think that's a key point, Connie, is that it's not just the investment in the broadband, it's in the equipment that is compatible with and has the capacity. I know of situations, I'm sure we all do, where the iPad is continually crashing because the system is so overloaded from the school. It happens regularly, and the equipment is so outdated because it isn't. These items are not cheap. The devices are not cheap when you look at them in aggregate. And you can't have, and I know one situation with 5 kids, you have 5 different devices, they've got to share some in order to get it done. They can't do everything simultaneously. It just doesn't work out. Marketing, I encourage you as much as possible, and I don't care how much all the information goes out on Facebook or whatever social media we can, it is still hard to reach people to understand the gravity and the significance of this and all the complications with it. It is so simplified is that, well, let's just put broadband in. Let's just do this. We see along the ditches and the roads that they're plowing in, some fibers being plowed in, some coppers being plowed in. That should be done all the time in all the place. but they don't understand the complexities and the details to do so. So I appreciate the work you're doing, and all of us can continue to try to put the materials out to encourage people to do the speed test. Keep up the work.
All right.
Further questions or comments for Connie? If not, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Jean and Larry on the CARES update, which will be the segue. And I guess, Jean, I would ask you to start with some of the comments as far as the broadband, please. Thank you.
Just so you know, my speed test on September 17th, download was 1.35, upload was 0.081.
What about across the
At
road?
7:23 a.m. in the morning.
What about across the road from where you live?
Well, that'd be higher.
So what would that do to the property value?
You know.
He bought the place, maybe he should have checked the speed beforehand.
Yeah.
Well, your district, I thought it was out.
It's a half a mile from you, I know that.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you and
Commissioners?
welcome, Jean. Good morning.
Thank you. As a segue to our report, we want to also talk about broadband as the other committee, which is, it doesn't really have a good name, but we did review and would like to make a recommendation as a part of the list of projects that you're approving today to contract for a update to the study to increase the the study so that they can have more information out there on what the broadband is, and using the CARES dollars for that. And it's on your report, and that amount was $16,000. And so that is one of the requests we have today. In addition to that, we also are requesting $10,000 out of the CARES funds to be used for the marketing that you've been discussing. And the plan for that would be to do full-page ads or in Newland and Spicer or Lakes Area Review. We would do a radio campaign with the local radio stations. There would be advertisements in the West Central Tribune, in addition to social media, as you mentioned. There was a very nice article already done in the Lakes Area Review. I meant to bring it and didn't. So if you get a chance, take a look at that. It really did a nice job of really giving some in-depth background as to the need and, where, the progress that we've made or haven't made, I guess, in some cases, in most cases, when it comes to broadband. And, one comment too, Steve, to your point about how long that this has been going on. Communication issues in Candioi County and working with the telecommunications industry has been, it actually started, I think, in Spicer back in, TNT days where Marketing Concepts was trying to get redundancy. And, and the issues have changed, but ironically, some not. And we're still fighting for, good access to communications in our county. So,
Jean, could I just interrupt for a moment and just add, gentlemen and individuals in this room, you may not be aware that Candioi County invested $273,000 a number of years ago to put the fiber along the highway all the way out here. And frankly, we were fought tooth and nail by every single major provider. And I won't mention the names at that point, but we did not make any friends clearly at that point. I think we had 20 lines in. We used 3 or 4 to start with, and then moving on, I forget all the numbers at this point in time. But the savings at that point in time was about $47,000 a month in terms of our phone bill, in terms of our communications. But we as a board felt it was a no-brainer as far as putting it in. I remember very distinctly in this room when we're looking at doing some contracting out and sharing some of those services, with individuals. We had 3 providers in this room, and it was like putting 3 tomcats in a gunny sack. They absolutely hated each other. They despised Candy Ojai County at that point, and as the result, I favored that until after the meeting, and I thought, why in the world do we want to get involved in that cat fight? So we did not proceed with anything. It was very disappointing to me that we could not get our communication providers to look at the benefits long-term for this county. Had we done some of that, had we been able to do some of that 20 and 25 years ago, Gene, we wouldn't be in the same position we're in today. But you can't get all the players together on understanding. It just doesn't work. Mr. Imdick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but in defense of private business, they have to have enough density without grants. They have to have enough density to pay and make it profitable. So because of that, the incumbents are always looking at the first mile outside of town. We want to accomplish the last mile from town and everything in between. And so we're going to need all the granting opportunities, all the funding that we can get from the state and federal, and this mapping will give us a tool to hand those state and national legislators, a lot of policymakers, a tool to say, hey, this is what it's really like out there. Just to dial in a little bit on the public relations campaign, you'll start to hear it real soon, is that we're going to ask the residents of Candy Ojai County to think about, actually it's on Halloween this year, the night you set your clocks back as we go out of daylight savings time. So on November 1st, set your clocks back, change the batteries on your smoke detectors, and take the speed test.
There you go. So that's the basis of what the messaging will be with the ad campaign. But again, today's request, as a part of our overall CARES funds request, we are highlighting those 2 line items today for the update of the study. And again, what's important about when you're looking at those grants is they always want to know what's ready. And so having that data is really critical in making sure that everything is ready to go. They talk about whenever they're doing projects is it shovel ready, so to speak. And so this data really and that having an updated study is really important, and it really is going to show. We're tying it also with where our hot spots and needs are with school districts as well. So that way it shows us where the needs are in facilitating distance learning, and that can be teleworking and as well as the schools. So if you have other questions, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, we can go into the rest of the CARES
Roger.
report.
Just one about the updated study. So sometime in the past few months, we've done a study on Mamre, Dovray, and St. John's Township. And what this will do is it'll pick up 4 more townships, basically update the study we did 3 years ago. So it'll pick up 4 more townships, west of Highway 71 and north of those 3 townships I just mentioned. So basically the northwest corner of the state, of the county, will be ready to go if funding should become available. I think Larry actually has a copy of the one radio ad that will, probably the same radio ad that will be played as a result.
Candy Ojai County wants to know your internet speed. We need better broadband for working from home, distance learning, and for telehealth. It's critical to Candy Ojai County. So this November 1st, set your clocks back, change your batteries on your smoke detector, and take the speed test by searching MN Speed Test. Or go to this station's website now for one of 5 chances to win $100 and see how speedy you are. This message brought to you by your Candy Ojai County Commissioners, Candy Ojai County EDC Broadband, and this station.
Yay. Very good. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Roger, for bringing that out. Continue then, Jean, please.
All right, so as of today, we have in your board packets the total requests that were for the various committees, the Health and Human Services, Public Safety, Equipment Supplies, IT, and again, the other committee, which kind of has a broad overview, and that's where we included the broadband request for today. In addition, there were small business grants and nonprofit grants that were funded through the county's portion of CARES dollars. They were not on your last report because the funds had been expended. But again, with that additional $500,000 that we transferred to the EDC for that, we do have those on today's report again. So if you have any questions, we can entertain those. Otherwise, I'll have you look at the cumulative report that I put on your workstations. And what this report is the tracking of the funds by the month. And so again, the front page of that shows those reports by the different committees, because we wanted to show how the committees are spending money in the different areas that we report. So improved telework, economic support, medical, payroll, those are all categories that I report these funds to in the Minnesota Management and Budget website. So we're tracking them in the same language that we're reporting those. And so those you can see what was spent in the month of August, September, and October, and cumulative by both committee and by line item. So then if you want to flip to the back side, then we got, again, additional, a lot of the same information in just a little bit different format. Instead of showing those as the committee, then it's just as the monthly cumulative total for those categories. So you can see that to date, with today's expenditures or requests, we have $3,967,088 that would be allocated of the 5.2 million. So if you look at that right below that, the allocation breakdown, the total, the top amount is the amount that was allocated just to Candioi County. That doesn't include those other funds that were for cities and townships. This was Candioi County's portion of $5,235,792. And to date, those allocations internally are 1.5 million. Externally, it would be the 2.5 million with to date unallocated $1,095 on 136. So that's where we're at as of today. If you want to see where the external allocations come from, that would be the schools, Prairie Lakes Youth Programs, Soil Water Conservation Districts, Economic Development, and then I've added the broadband and the marketing for the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Woodland Centers, which is in today's allocations.
Would you review at this point the dates and the deadlines and things coming up? I know that it's there constantly, but please review that as a matter of public record so we can understand and emphasize the timeliness and the short time that we have there, Jean, please.
Right. And timeliness is important, especially for the cities and townships at this point, because their deadlines come before the counties. So the deadlines for the cities and townships to expend their funds is November 15th. And if they are unexpended funds at that point, then those funds do get transferred to the home county. And that transfer needs to be done by November 17th or November 20th. The deadline for the county's expenditures is December 1st. So, really we would ideally like to not have any surprises as to additional funds coming from other areas, because we'd like to have a plan so that we make sure that we know what is needed and where unmet needs are, so that we can address those as we plan here in the next weeks.
Just refresh my memory, the money has to be committed to a specific expense by December 1st. Or
December 1st.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a service, the service can go through December, 30th. So if it was a subscription or something, so it doesn't have to be ended December 1st, but the payment has to be done by December 1st. So there won't be any more allocations after that first county commissioners meeting.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you.
Just to recap then, the last item on the back of that was also the Small Business Nonprofit Grant Program. And so in there, I've shown where the county funds have funded, and then for the, where the city and township funds have funded to date. So you can see in that particular area that it's $2,723,596 between both. The funds that Candioi County has allocated to the program, as well as cities throughout Candioi County and townships that have participated with their funds for the program.
Any questions for Jane?
Just to give a quick update on those business, Aaron did supply, he's very, very good at supplying information as to where those funds and the number of businesses that have been served to date. For business applications, the EDC as of today received 229 business apps. That we have with today's allocations, there have been funding of 185 businesses, and they have 17 that are being reviewed by the Finance Committee probably at this moment. For nonprofits, they have reviewed 41 nonprofit apps with 32 funding and 5 being reviewed today. So you can see that the need has been very strong in Candioi County. They are, of the current funds, there's an expectation that the funds that they have that we have been allocated, will likely be running out here after today's meeting. So there's, or by the next meeting for sure, next Tuesday's, they review applications with the Finance Committee every Tuesday. So there's there's continued need. Other cities and townships are, we're currently checking with them to see if there's additional funds that are going to be coming, and there are some that are looking at making some additional transfers, which is fantastic. And we'll know more about that as their city councils and town boards meet.
Corky?
No, Harlan,
Roger? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, which sets up the fact that there's some funds coming back and the responsibility for us to get them obligated by December 1st, essentially, really creates a bittersweet situation, because you need to set up, the sweetness is more money available. The bitterness is that we already have to have a home for those funds. And so there's some things I've used the term on deck circle, they may never get up to bat.
Right.
So we have to have the requests available, but if the funding isn't there, somebody's going to be disappointed, and hence the bitterness of it. So just be fair warned about, we're doing the best we can to make.
And we are currently working with all of our team captains in the different committees to make sure that they're, we're getting an idea of anything that's coming through committee work as well.
just a comment. It's unbelievable where we're at, though, when you think about it. I mean, it's only been a few months, and you and county administrator and the committees and the EDC, that we can get together and come up with a plan like this. And even though we're getting pressured at the end, we've made a lot of progress and I think made a big difference in the community so far. And I know we still got a long ways to go, but thanks to everyone.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I think the team captains and the different partners have done a fantastic job of really working together and communicating and getting that information and working with their teams to get the information to the team so that everybody knows what the game plan is and how to funnel things through, and it's working really well.
It hasn't even been 2 months when you think of it.
Right.
So it
Lots of it- a lot
seems
has
like
been
it's
done.
forever.
Right.
When you look at the number of meetings, you can't count the meetings on all your fingers and toes together and multiply it times 5. So it's incredible as far as him, but it's less than 2 months. Less than 2 months. Any further questions for Gene? Mr. Alman?
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I'll take my mask off so you can hear me better. part of this program and all the committees that we serve on and all the people that have helped out with this, all the volunteers, there's that issue of how do we be fair in distribution to all people, not being prejudiced to one group or one business or one nonprofit over the other, and how we're going to spread those funds. And we struggle with that at times, trying to make the best decision. And I guess we had a meeting the other day, and I just want to share with you publicly that I felt a little uncomfortable with one of them. And the name is not that important. But when I look at the people in need, I guess my question is, and I talked briefly with Ginny about this before your meeting here, before our meeting, is what we should be concentrating on. We're looking at all this, material products for safety, and that's all very, very important. But I don't think we should forget about the people, and especially the seniors who are being in lockdown mode for how many months now, and how we're going to present that, and if maybe any funds that we have left over might be able to not be given to just people that qualify or are in need of finances, but what we can do to present their mental health and a positive attitude, I think is more important than the money right now. I'm seeing that through my own witnessing of people when you go shopping. There's no joy. The joy that I compared to what it was like prior to this has changed, and the attitude of the country has changed, and the people and the environment too. And we have to deal with it. We're going to get through it. I feel confident, but I'm just expressing my opinion that if there's some funds with staff and all the people that are managing the money and have a little better insight, could maybe consider that type of education or training, mental health costs to be invested into the people for their own well-being. And I think Jeannie agrees with that, and they've been doing a very good job with the people we have. But I just wanted to say thank you for your work again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And I think that might be a topic area for the committee to discuss at the next team meeting, so, good point.
Further questions for Jean? If not, we're going to take a brief recess.
That's a good plan.
Logan, you ready? Yep. 3, 2, 1.
Call the county board back to order again, and I will call on Mr. Van Dyken for planning and zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. From the October 12th meeting of the County Planning Commission, there are two requests. The first request is that of Sunrise Shores for a private campground with 14 spots for RV and camping. This is in the far northwest corner of Diamond Lake. It is immediately adjacent to the public access near the county park there. And it represents a development on an previously pretty much undeveloped parcel, a wooded hill surrounded by wetlands. The Planning Commission did unanimously recommend approval with 3 attached conditions. And again, to note, this would not be a public campground, it would be for private use.
Any questions for Mr. Van Dyken? If not, the floor would be open for a motion for approval.
Also move, Mr.
We
Chairman.
have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Index seconds. Discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This will be citing the facts and findings and conditions as set forth in the staff report. Next item, please, Mr. Van Dyken.
The second request is a request of Mr. Richard Vanderspeck. Mr. Vanderspeck proposes a poultry barn for turkeys holding 42,000 birds, equivalent to 756 animal units. This is on land that he is purchasing from Butch Hogg, just east of town, north of Highway 12. And then he's purchasing also the adjacent residential site so that he can meet setbacks from residences. Obviously, the ordinance exempts residences that are owned by the feedlot producer. So if he owns it, then the setback doesn't come into play. He is further than the 1 mile setback from the city limits of Wilmer. So we have graded setbacks depending on the size of a community. And Wilmer, being our largest community, has a 1 mile setback for feedlots greater than 300 animal units. And he's about 1,000 feet, or the proposed site is about 1,000 feet further than the 1 mile setback. The nature of the barn is such that Mr. Vanderspeck believes it kind of represents the next era of turkey production. He's putting quite a bit of thought into how to raise turkeys in a disease-free manner in a high-quality facility, and it's his hope that it can be a model for turkey production facilities moving forward. The Planning Commission did recommend approval with one no vote of the proposal, with 4 attached conditions and findings as are in the minutes.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I will make that motion.
Nissman moves. I will second the motion. Discussion or questions?
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Alman.
And you feel comfortable with the communication with the city of Wilmer and the planning and zoning department that this is not going to be a hindrance to them and that they don't need to deal with any further findings? The 1 mile setback, they're comfortable with that, and it meets the current laws and zoning setback requirements. That I understand. I read the minutes. I'm just curious, do you see or have you heard of other such situations where we've allowed the proximity of that type of facility in or out just shortly outside the 1 mile area in the county? Is this something we need to be alerted to as far as precedents? And then do we have to have this reviewed or should it be reviewed by the municipalities based on growing population? I guess I'm just trying to think ahead here, because I can see as this land density in our county grows that it's going to be an ongoing issue, and I just wanted to feel you out on that. If you could give me some insight, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Alman. So when we get to this type of proximity to a city, one of the things that we do to foster cooperation is that they get a notification of this hearing. So they were aware of this proposal, did not provide any feedback. Generally speaking, one of the things that we also do is kind of look at what type of parts of a city are growing in a certain direction. The general pattern for this part of the city is more of a commercial industrial type of feel, including the county has, and I think that's even noted in the minutes, in fairly recent history, rezoned a significant portion of county land in that area as commercial, which of course has less propensity for land use conflicts down the road with the feedlot located a ways outside. But certainly, we would have taken account any feedback from the city of Wilmer on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Further, Mr. Emdek.
Yeah, mine is very similar related to that. Number one, I understand that as a county, we can't do something different than what our ordinance allows. So the 1 mile setback is what we can do. We can't say, no, we need 2 miles, whatever. But what if the city of Wilmer, it seems to me like if he went 1,000 feet further than the setback, that the most the city could ever expand their city limits is 1,000 feet now, because then they'd be inside the 1 mile.
Well, it would, under current standards, if they were to expand further, it would create a nonconformity. We won't necessarily have ability to, I don't think, trump that, but the city would probably have to take that into account. And it would affect the landowner down the road to the extent that if the landowner then was placed in a situation where they had a nonconformity, it would limit their ability to expand down the road. I don't think that statutorily it would limit or preclude the city from taking that action. It's just that it would create a non-conforming situation. And so generally, if we were going to be more restrictive, I wouldn't say there's an absolute that we can't be more restrictive, but it would have to be fleshed out in the findings. So perhaps you'd have to find under finding number 1 that it actually is detrimental to property values or something like that. Or perhaps it would be looked at related to language in the comprehensive plan and say, well, this meets an ordinance standard, but it violates what we're trying to accomplish in the comprehensive plan. So there would theoretically be ways that, in a unique situation, if it was felt strongly enough, there could be ways to look at it where it might be deemed not appropriate in a site.
Roger.
So the county has done our duty by following our ordinance and at 1 mile. If the city down the road wants to grow, then they will have to modify their setback rule, not us.
I don't know that they have a setback rule to modify, so I'm not sure.
Is it a variance issue then at that point?
No, again, they could take the action that they felt they needed to take as far as annexation. What the land use situation that they would create, again, would be a non-conforming. So a legal non-conformity means that Mr. Vanderspeck has legally established his use at the time, and then later conditions placed him to where he's no longer meets today's standards. That wouldn't mean that his goes away. In layman's terms, that would mean he's grandfathered and can continue and maintain, et cetera, et cetera. It would place some potential restrictions on him for expansion of his use, but it would not take away his right that he had inherent with his property. And so the city could still do what the city felt was best.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Corky?
Can you help clarify? I did look at it before, but how far is set back from Highway 12 then? You're coming into Wilmer and it's going to be along that intersection. Can you just put that up again?
I'm not sure I have an exact number on that. Hang on a second, get the right file open here. If you're familiar with how the Fedig property there jogs, he's going to be pushing north to near where that jog is. So I don't actually have an actual measurement that I can necessarily give you, but I would just kind of give you by scale or reference approximately where it would be located. So it'd be more toward that northern end.
Towards the railroad track?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, where that Fedig property jogs.
Yes.
So
Further questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Rahman?
I feel a little apprehensive on it. Being on the city council before, I understand that there's sometimes a breakdown in communication between governing bodies. I've seen it happen, and I'm not saying that you haven't. They have not replied, but have we also informed them of this? Because it's, I'm a little concerned about the impact, and I don't know what the long-range plan is for the city of Wilmer. I haven't reviewed that for many years, over 4 years. And I'm not sure where they are with their proposed expansion limitations and where they're going to be going. I know at one time, the dividing line was the bypass, right where the bridges are now, heading over on Highway 12. That doesn't seem, that I'm not aware of. I don't know if that's changed. I know at the one time there was a request for a city of sewer and water to go underneath the bypass. I don't know if that's been reconsidered. I don't know what the direction is, the city and planning and zoning department with the city. I feel since I don't have that reaffirmation, that we don't want to establish any kind of negative networking between the two groups. I'm just wondering if it would be possible that we can get confirmation on this or approve this motion subject to limitations are not going to be, those limitations that they have currently are not going to go beyond what their limitations of boundary limits are on that side of the property. I would feel much better rather than having the situation where I remember on the city council, the waste treatment plant and the odor control that we had with that. That was a nightmare. And I know that it can be offensive to some people. Some people smell prosperity, some people smell something else. So, depending on how you look at it. And I know litigation is always out there. People are always trying to litigate some issue. I'm just wondering if the board feels the same, if it's something that we should do just to reassure that we're doing the right thing and we're not limiting the agricultural area and what they're trying to do and what they have done for our community, because that's the number one, number two progressive financial development in our county, which is very important. So I know it's a fine line between city versus county, and how do we define that? How do we still work within the borders as we encroach into the farming community? There has to be some communication there, and I feel a little apprehensive, and I would like to amend the motion that we table this matter until next meeting and after we get a reaffirmation from the city of Wilmer of their boundary limitations.
We have a motion not to table, Mr. Amon, but to postpone the decision. Mr. Van Dyke, and I would request as far as the time frame from the application deadline.
Hang on just a second. The date received is September 18th, 2020. So the initial 60-day would be 60 days from that, which would be nigh on to the end of November. So there's, it is not we're not pushing the near end of the 60-day timeline as of yet.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Emdek.
before I would consider a seconding of that amended motion or a motion to amend, may I ask Mr. Van Dyken, I think I heard you say that the city of Wilmer was notified and you got no response. Is that correct?
That is correct. By standard, so that's our protocol, things that fall into DNR's type of jurisdiction, we give notice, the same notice that goes out to the landowners and such. And generally, how we tend to proceed is that no comment is taken as a sign of approval or a lack of concern, similar to MNDOT, things along MNDOT roads, et cetera. If MNDOT does not reply and say we're concerned about this or that, or please take these things into account, then we generally proceed and say we've done our due diligence that way.
Is there a second? No, this is not an amendment. This would be a motion to postpone, which will take precedence over the main motion. Is there a second to said motion? Calling a second time? Calling a third time. Motion fails for lack of a second. The main motion is still on the table. Motion to approve. Is there any further question or discussion on motion to approve?
Just,
Mr. Nissen.
did you say he purchased some residential lots in your?
He purchased 23 acres from the FedEg property, which is adjacent to it.
Okay, and that wasn't anticipated to become personal housing lots?
No, that's ag property, and his daughter's going to be living on site.
All right, that's
So-
all.
All in favor of the
Chairman?
motion, Mr. Hammond?
Just a couple things, and I understand it's a little touchy, but not too touchy. Some of my reasons to reinforce communication is they have a new director of planning and zoning at the city of Wilmer. And the planning commission, the chairman of the planning commission, I don't know if they were notified personally, but I don't know if there's a connection there between them being notified and the director being notified or the administrator being notified, whether or not it's gone down to the chain of other people that are going to be ultimately held responsible for the decision and given their input, whether or not that has been given. And I'm not sure to what level that has been researched. And it has been discussed by the planning commission, by the mayor and council. Has it been reviewed, their current expansion efforts, if there is going to be any? And for that reason, it's not an issue of not supporting the development of this project. It's an issue of just common consideration and courtesy to be reaffirmed. So please, I'd like to have this voted down, not because my district is only in the city of Wilmer, because it is, but I know that the pressures of other agricultural development is going to be an ongoing issue, and we should set up a different procedure and policy on how the cities and municipalities are notified, so they won't have to question us again. And I think the line of information here has not been shown, and I feel uncomfortable with it, so I can't support it. But I would hope that this could be defeated so that we can continue on to just postpone this for just another couple of weeks.
All those in favor of motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
No.
Motion is hereby carried with the facts and findings and conditions as set forth. Thank you, Mr. Van Dyken. And you have the Diamond Lake one? That was approved?
Yeah, that was.
And the only two items? That's correct. Okay, thank you. Mr. Kleindl, you have an amendment to the lease.
Mr. Chair, I have lease number 12142, amendment number 1. This was state-operated services. That's leases a suite here in this building for Waves. And this is a renewal lease. They've been here for 5 years. The term is to extend it for another 5 years with an adjustment rate at $15.80 a square foot. That would go until 2023. In 2023, that to 2025 would go to $15.95 a square foot. I'd ask for this renewal to be approved.
Questions for Mr. Kleindl? If not, is there a motion to accept the recommendation? Mr. Berg?
I'll second.
Mr. Nissen seconds. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion is hereby carried. Thank you, Larry. And now I'll call on
Jenny.
here we go. Jenny and Kim and Larry as far as a COVID update. And who's going to lead it off? Kim? Okay, Jenny, thank you.
I don't need it, I think. I can just talk and refer people to the website if it's fine. It's okay. Good morning, Jenny Lippert, again, Candido County Health and Human Services Director. As I'm sure most of you are aware, we are seeing an increase in our number of confirmed positive COVID-19 cases in Candido County. The majority of these cases are occurring with people between the ages of 19 and 64 years of age. We are seeing a slight increase in the number of cases with younger children, but that group is really between the ages of 15 and 19 years old. So when an outbreak of a disease reaches a point where it's actively spreading in a community, all members need to take action. Our local data reflects the majority of the new cases are suggesting this is community spread. So we are seeing community spread of COVID-19. The ages between 19 and 64, these are people that are generally active, they're out and about in the community, they're people that are going to work. So a good reminder to everyone in the community that we all need to take our part in decreasing the transmission of COVID-19 that's currently circulating. A current situational update. Again, I would ask anyone to visit our local public health website to get data. We have a lot of data. The state is providing more data points, and we are taking that and putting it into our local statistics. But as of yesterday, again, new data comes out at 11 o'clock. As of yesterday, we had a total of 1,549 total cases of COVID-19 in our county. We have seen 1,289 individuals that have been released from isolation, leaving us with a total of 260 active cases right now. Our county has seen 4 deaths. 2 of those deaths have been associated with some type of long-term care or congregate care facility. Local public health, we are still working very closely with the Minnesota Department of Health and our local healthcare system, so that's Caris Health, as it relates to COVID-19. Our local public health nurses are continuing to reach out to every positive COVID-19 individual in our county, and we're providing education and being a resource if positive individuals have any needs. The Minnesota Department of Health is now using a regional approach for contact tracing and investigation. So they were doing this all at the state level, and now they have transitioned into a regional model. We in Candiota County are not a part of that regional model, but we are still contacting every positive person in our county and providing education and resources, but we are not allocating our nursing time to doing the contact tracing and investigation work. Our incident command team is still meeting every other week, and we are involved in many different Minnesota Department of Health calls, which are occurring weekly. We are seeing an increase in the number of complaints we're receiving from the public, with more and more people reporting individuals not wearing masks. We are also seeing an increase with the number of positive cases that we have continually been having more needs of essential services. So our staff are going out to provide some essential service requests. There's been a lot of discussion at the state and federal levels on vaccination and what that will look like when a vaccine is available. We at Local Public Health are prepared to assist and distribute as needed, and we are working in conjunction with emergency management on those plans. The community testing event that occurred on October 6th through October 8th was completed by the state. They tested 1,095 people over the course of the 3 days, and the total number of tests that were positive for COVID-19 was 54. So the positivity rate for that event was 4.9%, and across the state, that's pretty well. We don't see any big concerns with that. We at Local Public Health are in communication still with local businesses and in a lot of communication with local schools to be a support and resource for questions about the current COVID-19 situation. My ask today from Local Public Health is that we need everyone's help to decrease the amount of community transmission that we're seeing of COVID-19 in our county. It's really critical that the residents of Candiota County continue to protect themselves and others. Again, this is the same message that we've been saying since day one that we found out about the COVID-19 pandemic. Please avoid large gatherings and places where people aren't wearing masks. Practice social distancing by staying at least 6 feet away from other individuals in public places. Washing your hands often, and then get tested when you're sick. Wear a mask and stay home if you're sick. Even if someone looks and feels healthy, they still could spread COVID-19. It's important to follow all of these safety measures at the same time. It's not just enough to wash your hands correctly and use hand sanitizer if you're not wearing a face mask when in the presence of other people. The use of face masks alone will not be enough to eliminate the risk of infection. The pathogen can end up on one's hands, and from there it can easily transpire to your nose, to your mouth, or your eyes. That's why hand washing is so important. Touching your face will potentially contaminate hands, which can be a risk. Everyone should monitor their health daily, be alert for symptoms, watch for fevers, cough, shortness of breath, and other symptoms of COVID-19. It's especially important if you're out running errands, going to the office or the workplace, and in settings where it may be difficult to keep physical 6 feet of separation. Take your temperature if symptoms develop. And then also I want to put out there to protect yourself during this flu season. It's likely that the flu virus and the virus that causes COVID-19 will both spread this fall and winter. Healthcare systems could become overwhelmed with testing both patients with the flu and also now patients with COVID-19. This means getting a flu vaccine during 2020 and 2021 is more important than ever. While getting a flu vaccine will not protect against COVID-19, there are many important benefits, such as the flu vaccines have been shown to reduce the risk of flu illness, hospitalization, and death. And also getting a flu vaccine can also save healthcare resources for the care of patients that may become ill with COVID-19. Voting, Halloween, and other holidays are quickly approaching. I would encourage everyone to visit the Minnesota Department of Health and the CDC websites to check out safe ways to vote and also celebrate holidays or events. Any questions?
Any question for Jenny? Steve?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Jenny. Appreciate all your work and your update. Could you just, for the record, put the fear out of people or some of the people that have contacted me regarding their animals as far as catching COVID-19 and being exposed to that? And there's some very loving people out there that care for their animals very deeply other than themselves. Could you just express that thought? Because
Sure. So I would say the same thing. I mean, don't bring your animals out in public places. Definitely, if you're concerned of COVID-19 amongst your pets, the best person would be to contact a veterinarian or somebody who is skilled in that area.
thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Kim or Larry, which of you? Kim, please. Thank you.
I'm not worried. Good morning, Kim Lindahl, Candida County Emergency Management Director. Emergency management continues to manage and sort through all kinds of the various updates that are continual with COVID-19. We continue to meet every 2 weeks via Zoom with the Health and Medical Committee, sharing current information and updates regarding the ongoing testing, patient volumes at the clinics and ER and the hospital. We continue to get phone calls with questions about what is permissible for gatherings, social gatherings, wearing masks, etc., and referring them always to either our local public health, the CDC websites, or the MDH websites. Unfortunately, there is a mass amount of information that people are being hit with, and everybody is really confused and wondering what really are we supposed to do? So we try to encourage them to contact our local public health, and we try to answer them the questions as best we can. We also continue to assist with PPE for our fire and EMS services, as well as county employees, and some community needs. We've had some phone calls recently on requests for PPE from businesses also. We do still have, just a little FYI, we do still have PPE at this point in time. We don't have a shortage at this time, but we are trying to distribute it wisely also. We're working with Public Safety Committee to purchase equipment for the response now and preparing for what we may have in the future. We are purchasing PPE to replenish our supply as best we can as it is available. In addition, we are purchasing equipment that will assist our county's response in the future. We currently are looking at reviewing, as Jenny mentioned, our mass vaccination plan. We've had this plan in place since 2008. We have a plan for an in-person vaccination clinic and a plan as a drive-through clinic. As you know, we recently had the drive-through clinic at the Rescue Squad building. A couple of you, I remember, came through. Although we did not have the numbers that we would anticipate if we needed to do a countywide larger scale vaccination clinic, we were able to test many aspects of the drive-through. For instance, making sure everyone stays in their car, which was very important, how long it takes to vaccinate a number of people, such as a family in one car, and then also having maybe a fast lane, if you will, with 1 or 2 people in a vehicle that would go much quicker than a family. So the importance of having a couple different lanes, how many volunteers we would need and where they would be needed, and the importance of having the drive area very well coned off for safety and direction for a smooth traffic flow, should we have the mass amounts of traffic that would be anticipated. Everyone, it seems, as Jenny talked about stats, everyone is always looking for stats. They're always calling and asking about stats. And we do continue to send out the Corona Corner, which is packed with every kind of stat I think that you could possibly look for. We distribute that to our county employees, the school superintendents, ministerial group, all cities, mayors, chamber, media, and I think a few more that goes out all over. And a big thank you to Denise Kraigenbring, who has done this, it seems like forever. For a while weekly, and now every 2 weeks we send that out, and she does an excellent, excellent job with that. And as Jenny mentioned, we also want to remind everyone again to continue to social distance, be aware of your large gatherings, wear a mask, use hand sanitizer, wash your hands, and make some smart common sense choices socially and at work. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim, any questions for Kim? Courtney?
Yeah, a question about, both you and Jenny were talking about the vaccinations when that time comes up. Any more information? Are you getting guidelines? And I'm assuming from the federal government and the state, and that we will be doing those here?
I think every county will be doing that, every local public health county, along with their, they're doing the shooting part of it, the vaccination part, and the emergency managers should have a plan already in place. It is already in place for whatever we need to do as far as distributing that. And we've talked, different times about if it's a pill distribution or if it's a vaccine, whatever it is. And we've kind of planned out for all of that, whatever direction
we're. Do it then?
Pardon me?
You got the supplies to do it then, and at this point?
So what we're hearing at local public health and from the state is that the first round will be for essential workers, and what they're doing is they're reaching out right now to all the hospital and clinics to find out what the need would be for their essential workers. And if I would think that they will distribute that vaccine locally, that would be Caris Health. And then when the second phase comes, that it's open to the general public, then we at local public health, we would be the ones to distribute that and manage that. There's been talk about a second dose, possibly a third dose. That hasn't really all been finalized yet. And then also a lot of conversation about how it needs to be stored. It needs to be stored in a very cool freezer type storage system. So there's going to be some time that we'll have to adjust. We've put in for some CARES dollars for some supplies that we have already started to get on hand. And then the state will probably supply some other things. So we should be in good shape when that comes. But who knows when it's going to be. There has not been any talk about that. Again, essential workers in the healthcare system will be the first round, and then it would be open to the public.
Further questions
So-
for
so
Jenny or
one of
Kim?
the-
Go ahead. Go ahead,
One
Kim,
additional
please.
thing to that, one of the other steps that would be taken would be not just the healthcare workers, but then secondary could be fire, EMS, those kinds of emergency personnel, law enforcement, the correction officers, that group of folks that would need some vaccination also.
Okay. Roger?
I just want to comment about the efficiency of the drive-through clinic. Was going really smooth until some clown showed up without their paperwork done, and then I was just told to drive on the side and get my paperwork done, and then go through.
We had a lot of discussions about that, just so you know. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Larry?
thank you.
Larry, please.
I'll cover the aspect of what we're doing in the county. And as you know, since July, we've been open our buildings with limited access to the public. I encourage the public to continue to make reservations online as much as possible to get your appointments. Also encourage the public to use drop boxes as much as possible. That is still working very well. With the election and taxes that were coming through, again, trying to keep people moving through the building in a safe distance. I think we have a good plan in place. Our staff have been doing an excellent job of getting people in and out of the facilities. As you know, as you walk in the Health and Human Services building, we have a person downstairs that helps screen and monitor that. We're working on another plan as we get our new sliding doors in there, the touch-free doors, about how we're going to be utilizing that. We'll probably go to what the school system is using for an intercom system and letting people in. My job is to put together a plan, to continue to serve the public, which we are. And for the most part, the public hasn't seen any loss of services or delays in services. But my job is also to protect them, but also protect our staff. And so our plan is we constantly look at our plans, what we're doing with our staff, what are we doing, reviewing with the department heads, are they checking in with them, not only physically, but how are they doing emotionally, how are they dealing with the stress of everything. And so we constantly rework our plan and do that. I think our staff have been doing a tremendous job with COVID. We're all getting tired. If you told me that 7 months ago that we would still be talking about it, I would have said, I don't think so, but here we are, and we're probably going to be going into early next year or mid next year. But our job is to continue to provide the services, reevaluate how the services are being provided. We make adjustments. Now, a lot of our departments have been working with clients outside. Well, when winter comes, it's a little harder to visit your clients outside in Minnesota. And so now we're adapting how do we go about doing that. And so we're making adjustments in how we meet with people inside the buildings, how we meet with them possibly in their homes. And so we're looking at that aspect. And so we're constantly adapting, and we're making adjustments, and we're constantly having contact with our supervisors, our department heads, our staff, and say what's working, what's not working, what should we be looking at. Any questions?
Questions for Larry?
Comment, Mr. Chairman. Could you please convey a thank you to the people in the driver's license division since they've opened up? I've had 3 people that said they really improved as far as how long they had to wait, and they're just thankful. So
Be glad to pass that on.
pass that on to them. They're doing a good job keeping people happy.
A lot of that goes to that computer system that was put in.
Yes.
Made a lot of difference, Thank you, Larry.
Yep.
Thank you much, appreciate it. At this point, Mr. Kleindl will be the discussion with the administrator. You have the right, as you well know, to have this meeting closed, or we can continue as a public meeting.
I chose to have it as a public meeting.
And I just want to identify that very clearly, that Mr. Kleindl has the right to close the meeting for evaluation, but he's always been very upfront in saying, no, we have this conversation together.
Yep.
So at this time, Larry, and members of the board, Mr. Berg and I did meet with Mr. Kleindl and had a excellent conversation at the summation of all the forms that each of us filled out. And my purpose today will be to take that and to highlight some of the conversation and also some of the comments and suggestions that were put forth as far as Mr. Kleindl. We did a ranking system, as you gentlemen know, exceeds, meets, does not meet, and also can't assess based upon knowledge and those types of things. I would like to start in reverse order, Mr. Kleindl, and then at the end of the time that I briefly summarize here, Mr. Berg and I would like to, and we did inform you yesterday, we talked about this year and would invite you to share some of your reflections from this past year as far as the impacts. In reverse order, I'd like to emphasize clearly from the employee's greatest strengths. And I would like to identify 4 words with a couple of comments here. First of all, communication, commitment, passion, and budgeting. As the comments were put forth, well organized, able to handle many things at the same time, and that's going to be also one of the negatives as well, Larry. And to emphasize clearly strong people skills and leadership, attention to detail. Those were reverberated throughout the board as far as the strengths that you have. And I would like to use that as a segue and appearing to handle many things at a time. There continually is a concern and a suggestion to you as far as being able to balance personal and professional time, making sure that you are taking care of yourself, making sure that you take time away to rest and relax. And it's an understatement in saying in the last 9 months, almost now, seemingly like 9 years, of the COVID and the challenges that are there, and the amount of hours started on a Sunday, I believe, when the world changed, and the first several weeks, and continues to be in months, the amount of time that is being put in. But I would also say this, Larry, on behalf of Mr. Berg and I from our conversation, is also provided a good opportunity to be innovative, and that's a word that came through quite a number of times as far as comments, and provided some great opportunities for you as a leader with the department heads to make some clear innovations in there. So there is some light and there is some clear benefits from that. I would like to add that one of the suggestions in our conversation yesterday was to establish some yearly goals and then have that conversation with the board at the beginning of the year, perhaps mid-year. We do it with other committees and that type of thing, but a suggestion as far as moving ahead with that. I want to add a couple of things under the other comments that board members made, and I share this from a personal standpoint and also a professional standpoint, looking at the long-term picture as far as sustainability, with the time and the emphasis and the dynamic changes within county government and the additional responsibilities. Perhaps it is again time to look at the possibility of an assistant administrator, and that was brought forth in some of our conversation. Yes, just to be thinking about that as far as the board at that point. Many positive comments, Larry, under the other, talking about the tremendous leadership during the COVID-19, the innovation, breaking down into the teams, suggesting of that, very positive and very significant in your leadership skills and ability to move ahead. Looking at long-term planning, very important for the facilities management, looking at Glacial Lake Sewer, looking at the budgeting aspect. As I reported to the board this last couple of times, the tremendous kudos to you and your management staff and financial staff from the state auditor. They have years and years of experience, but very complimentary of the work that you are doing in terms of leading. Also recognized very highly from the management organization and our financial team, Eilers and Associates. Very solid position. That has to do with only good, solid leadership, and that came through many times in our comments there to make that strong commendation to you. Couple of, I think, very important comments that came from commissioners responding to one of the segments as far as communication, responding to commissioners and informing them of an issue or a concern or a situation that comes up when the district they represent does an excellent job in communicating with all of us. When there's an issue that you received a call from or a concern, you are informing the commissioner within that district, so they are given a heads up, so to speak, as far as the terms that come in with that. I would like to just highlight a couple of things, Larry, that I think stand out very well. Looking at the community involvement that you have, it is a plus, but is also sometimes a negative in that how much time you invest. It's wonderful You hear it, I hear it, we all hear it at committee meetings, that they appreciated your attendance, they appreciated your involvement and interest, but that's part of that, Larry, that balance between the numbers of times that get under. You are very involved in state activities, in your state associations. You are highly regarded, and we as commissioners hear feedback from that. You reach out to people for assistance and for feedback and guidance that is very commendable as far as the quality of staff, content, and the quality of leadership that you're demonstrating at this point. At the overall rating, Larry, 4 commissioners left you an E, which is exceeding, and 1 individual must have missed it because it was left blank at that point in time. So we have 4 excellents, exceeding performance, excellent, whatever term you want to apply to it. We're very proud to have you as our administrator for Candido County. We're very proud of the successes that you've had, and we compliment you for that very highly. Members of the board, that would complete a brief synopsis of the extensive conversation and the work that we have done. The recommendation from Mr. Berg and myself is to approve Mr. Kleindel's performance evaluation. That copy of that will be signed by myself as board chair and also Mr. Kleindel, and then this will be placed in his file for long term. Before I ask for that motion, I would ask you, Larry, please, as I said at the beginning, to make a few comments that would reflect on 2020 and kind of a different year, to say the least. So, Mr. Kleindel, please.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate your confidence in me. This has been like no year like no other. But as you know, when you have a good team, no one person can do it. I have a good department head staff, great commissioners to work with. This has been a tough year. I'd be lying to you if you'd have told me in last January that we'd be facing this 7 months later. I walked into the building on March 15th as a Sunday, 11 o'clock, called Kim Lindahl and had a phone conversation with Jenny, and decided we would better start talking about this COVID-19 thing, what the heck this was about. I remember walking in the Emergency Operations Center and starting these meetings and wondering how the heck we're going to pull this off, because I thought, this is going to go away in a few weeks. This will be fine. We'll get through it. And the reality hit in really quickly of how quickly we had to adapt and adjust. I think the thing I'm really proud of is how we have adjusted. I'm proud of the plan we put together, the phase-in plan from phase 1 when we were locked down, and how we're going to work, how we got our employees all together and communicated to them of what was going to take place when time was unknown. I mean, the first few months, daily, even hourly, things were changing. We'd tell staff one thing, we had to send out another email and say, no, it's changed again. And so those emails went out to you, and I'm sure you thought, what kind of leadership is that? But the process, we've never gone through this before, and we had to adapt. The department heads have been tremendous on the front line with their staff. We within a week, took over half our employees, and they were working remotely. We took over half our employees that couldn't work remotely and figured out a way to keep them safe and the public safe, and how we were going to do it. You know, when we used to go through some emergency operation training and planning, I thought, God, this is kind of a waste of time. But over those years, that emergency operational training has come in tremendously beneficial. The plan and that we put together as a county, and we're working as a team, has been unreal. We have not limited the services to the public. We changed how we do the services, but they're the same amount of services that we're required by law to provide and get out there. We're doing it, and our staff are doing a tremendous job. Yes, they're tired, and yes, we want this. We all want this to be over. But I'm proud of the fact that we have a plan, and we're working that plan, and we adjust that plan when we see it doesn't work. I made a lot of mistakes through this year process, and But you learn that you have to go about it, and I tell the department heads, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying. As long as you recognize those mistakes and you make adjustments. We continue to work on the challenges to keep our staff and the public safety. That's our number one thing. We want to make sure that we do this. I love working for Kansas County. It's such a forward-thinking county, and anytime you tell somebody they can't do something, we find a way to make it work. So I want to say thank you to you, to the staff, for everything. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Larry. The recommendation, again, from Mr. Berg and myself is to approve the evaluation and place it in his file. Chair will entertain a motion.
I will make that motion.
Commissioner Nissen moves. Is there a
I'll second
second?
that, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Almond seconds. Discussion or questions on motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is hereby carried. Thank you, Mr. Kleindl. It is our pleasure. Thank you. Mr. Berg.
I just wanted to make a comment about, you're talking about the team, and it's so important. Not only you as a leader of the team, and I think of you as our coach. I think we got one of the best coaches in the state of Minnesota right here, but also our department heads. They're just doing a fantastic job. You all put in more than 40 hours a week, and I don't know how everybody can be doing that. And, wish we could clone everyone, but it's a great team we have, and thanks for that very much, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. At this time, any administrative updates, Mr. Kleindl? Any additional at this point? Then, given the time constraints, I would ask each of us, is there a specific committee or one or two? There are many committees that we sit on together. The CARES is kind of continuing. If there have any specific committee reports that would be identified at this point, otherwise we can have a little longer conversation this next meeting because that is election day and it will be a shorter agenda and there will be certainly a lot less staff that will be here at that point in time. So, Steve, any committees that wish to highlight that would be anything critical at this point?
Nothing critical. We're dealing with an issue of how to redisperse funds due to revenue that due to our fiscal responsibility through Helping Hands Nurse Family Partnership, we're looking at lowering our budget again and or offering a reimbursement to the counties. And each area has maintained a level of zero also. I just want to mention, everything else can wait. We got a lot going on. Stephanie Felt, we all received that
Yes.
notice about her, Larry. Thank you for letting us know that she's been
Congratulations.
received and recognized by the state of Minnesota on towards zero deaths and her safety program work and efforts through the years. And I hope somehow we can make sure that she's publicly recognized at one of our upcoming meetings. I would like that.
I think one of the upcoming board meetings would be very appropriate.
I think it would be too, absolutely.
so.
Give credit where credit's due.
Mr. Nissen.
That's about it. Thank
Okay,
you.
Mr. Nissen.
I just have, I had a whole bunch of meetings like everybody did, but, and all of them are important. But Glacial Ridge Scenic Byway Committee is looking for more members so that we can get a lot more work done in terms of getting the website updated, getting the Facebook, those kinds of things. We only have a few county commissioners, and that's about it anymore. There used to be, when they did the reorganization, about 15 people on that group. So we need to, so I'm looking for folks that are interested in the byway to get a hold of me. I'd like to take at least one person to the next meeting as a guest and see what we're working on. We're working with Parks and Trails to develop a better byway. Got a lot of scenery, which is, of course, the leaves are all covered with snow right now and probably falling off because of the weight. But we'd like to have folks that maybe would like to contribute some photos of our byway so that we can put them on the Facebook page. And that's all I have. I have a lot of other things, but
Thank you, Raleigh.
yeah.
Yeah, we've all had a lot of committee meetings, and just briefly on the DAC, we're meeting as a board on the 5th of November. We have to set a date as far as the closure. We anticipate that we will be officially closing on December 5th, but that is yet to be determined because we have to do an audit. The plan is still to have a complete closure by the end of 2020, and then have recommendations to the county board before that time as far as the dispersal. The auction sale is on the 26th of October, which is, what is that, Monday? What is the 26th?
I believe
Got to
that's
think.
Monday, yeah.
I think so, Monday. That is the sale, the final sale at that point. And from an AMC standpoint, and Roger and all of us know, the bonding bill, there was a bonding bill passed, which was very significant for the roads and bridges and the deficient bridges. Of all the things that passed, that was most important, I think, at this point. Mr. Berg.
Okay, you all probably saw the nice headline and article with West Central Tribune about the bonding bill and all the people who benefited from it, and being in the Prairie Lakes Community Youth Program. A lot of work went into that. I want to really thank our legislative representatives who are really pushing that through. And they worked really hard at that. And there's a lot of meetings going on, and we kind of thought it was lost. Now, just really an update on that, you know, with the COVID hitting now and all the reports about Prairie Lakes and where we're going with that and financial struggles right now, we'll see where we're going to go with this. And the good news is, and we've talked to our representatives too, that we do have a time frame to move forward with this. So we can postpone, you know, breaking ground tomorrow and see what happens. And also remind the county commissioners we've committed, you know, dollars from our reserve fund to upfront that dollars. And so we want to make sure things are solid before we go into that. So there'll be more to come on that later, but
Thank you.
very good press and reports on that, and very good work by a lot of people.
Thank you.
Thank
Roger?
You. Oh, and one more thing.
I'm sorry.
Stephanie, I want to bring her up again. Commissioner Hammond, thank you for bringing that up. I'm on that committee, and I'm not surprised she got the award. She does a nice job.
Yeah, she does. Roger?
I'll skip the reports and just remind everybody that the district meeting is the day after our next board regular meeting.
Yep.
On the 4th by Zoom.
All right.
With that, we are adjourned.